Your next comedian is a very funny man. He is the host of Weird Video Games on YouTube and also the podcast Terrible Warriors. Please give it up for Tom White.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tom. I do the web show Weird Video Games. Thank you. My hobbies include laughing at my own jokes and being an insufferable dolt. I don't believe I'm a mean person. I just have this weakness for exploiting the fact that minor things can make certain people irrationally upset. I don't mean like people who have PTSD who get triggered by, say, a color. No, that's trauma, dude. But if I do find out that a friend of mine becomes unreasonably angry every time he sees a minion, I will spend entire weekends planning the most hilarious way to insert one into his daily routine. I will make friends with a homophobic man on Facebook who says that making him look at attractive men is sexual harassment. And wouldn't you know it, ignorant people tend to not be very good at protecting their private information. Dude will just type in his city and what he does for a living into his Facebook profile, and Google will fill in the blanks. As an aside, have you seen Sean Connery in the movie Zardos? Have you seen his majestic ensemble? He wears just 2 bandoliers, a tiny red thong, the entirety of his being that is exposed through a sea of chest hair, and just a little bit of your imagination. Did you furthermore know that if you go to Costco, they will print photos of whatever you want for just 10 cents a piece? Slap a stamp on it, it is now a postcard. You don't need an envelope, thus saving you money and having the added benefit that everyone in the office gets to see it if you have it delivered to, say, a place of business. It's beautiful. Such antics led to me getting banned by the dog spotting Facebook group. Now, I'm going to assume most of you don't know what that is because you all lead lives that can be defined by whatever almighty watches and judges us all. So let me explain. The dog spotting group is a group where people post pictures of dogs that they've spotted. It's like bird watching, except these aren't people snapping pictures of unusual birds and sharing their findings. These aren't untamed creatures who, by fortuitous chance, you manage to catch a clean picture of before it flies majestically away. These people post pictures of dogs, any dogs that they happen to see. Like, if they see their neighbor going out for a walk with their black lab, that's them striking gold. This is very real, I assure you. And the comments aren't like, oh, what a cute puppy, or, giving each other feedback on their photography skills, trying to guess what type of mix they are. It's always like, it's more like, +1, that's a dog, all right. It's just patting each other on the back for the ability to follow basic instructions. And these people take it so seriously. I've personally witnessed them absolutely melt down when somebody posted a picture of a fox. Now, I'm thinking, a fox is basically a dog, right? I mean, it's part of the canine family, and they're a little bit more unusual than just your run-of-the-mill, no, I guess I'm Hitler now. So naturally, I joined this group of fun-loving folks, and I posted a picture of a meerkat and asked them what type of dog it was. Apparently this ruined several people's day. One of which said, and I quote, "I can't believe I have to come home to this." Another felt led to exclaim, "This is grounds for expulsion." Oh no, you mean I would be cast out from this bright beacon of humanity I didn't know existed 5 minutes ago? I mean, I tried to explain to them that a meerkat is not actually a cat, it's just a name. Somehow that didn't help for some reason. I didn't last much longer after I posted a picture of someone's backyard. I said there was a dog here right before, but he left before I took this picture. So I kind of drew what I remember the dog looking like. I didn't get to see the looks on everyone's faces when they saw this, but I kind of imagine it as like a mix between shock and vengeance. I mean, look, I think it's totally okay to practice whatever kind of hobby you want, as long as it's not hurting anyone. Rick and Morty fans. But I also think it's important to have a certain amount of humility and self-awareness about it. Like, if you're 60 and you live alone and you like to play with Star Wars dolls, that's cool with me. I'll play with you. But if you scream at me that my limited edition Grand Admiral Thrawn is not canon, you are on a swift and deserving path to misery, and I'm going to have fun helping you get there. I also brought Spock. And this little fellow is a character I made up. I call him Darth Mitchell. That's just Mitch from Baywatch. Yeah, but with a lightsaber. I don't know. This is just entertaining. This is entertainment for me. You might think it's a waste of time. Just like I might think watching young Sheldon is a waste of time. Oh yeah, TV sucks these days. It's something that people like to argue about, like which shows suck, or whether shows mostly suck now, or if they used to suck and now they don't suck as much as things that used to suck, and your opinion is stupid. Honestly, I don't think they're any better or any worse. We've just changed the way we examine them. Like these days, you can watch Iron Fist on Netflix and live tweet about how terrible it is, even while you're watching it. Just giving it a play-by-play like a journalist covering some kind of natural disaster. Things are looking grim just a few episodes in. We see here a man whose acting repertoire once included Game of Thrones speaking in horribly butchered Mandarin to a Chinese woman trying to pretend what he's saying is not an affront to her and her culture. And I've just received word that the only redeeming character has died off screen. Apparently an overdose from a drug problem that was never before alluded to and will never be referred to for the rest of the show. Just one of countless examples of tragic examples of shoddy writing while the actors search for the will to carry on. Back in the 80s, you could watch Murder, She Wrote and not notice that it's bad for 12 seasons. It's not because we were all dumb. You just didn't immediately run to the phone to tell all of your friends about the episode you just watched, and 2 hours later you forgot what it was even about. And then next week you watch it again because there's only like 6 shows. Have you seen Murder, She Wrote? It's an alright show, as long as you don't actually think about what it is you're watching. Otherwise, the premise absolutely crumbles under its own pillars of stupid. You know the premise? Angela Lansbury plays a mystery writer who uses her ability to write murder novels to solve actual murders. And for some reason, everyone just sort of lets her. I mean, you just have to accept that for some reason being an author makes her an expert in criminal investigation, and that astonishingly, wherever she goes, someone turns up dead. But that's not really the problem I have with the show. My problem is that all the killer needs to do to get away with murder is to remember, or cause anyone else for that matter, to remember at any given moment that she's not actually a detective. I lost my spot. How's everyone doing? Not just during the events of the show, even after. Joe Stabby, or better yet, Joe Stabby's lawyer, just needs to say to themselves, hey, wait a minute. That lady my client confessed that strangle stabbing to doesn't have any actual authority. That entire confession is hearsay. That will get thrown out minutes into court. And that confession is always literally all she has. They need that confession as a punchy climax, so all the evidence she gathers up until that point is always really circumstantial. Just enough to get a confession out of the guy. And Columbo, she ain't. She doesn't, like, trick them into letting their guard down and making a mistake. She just invites herself over to Mr. Murstache with whatever with whatever flimsy evidence she has and accuses him point blank of killing his wife. And he always responds to these brutally insulting accusations as if, like, by calmly refuting her, as if it's normal for just random idiots to barge into your life and accuse you of a felony against your loved ones. Until she backs him into even the slightest of corners. At which point, my response would be, okay, I'm done. I'm not saying another word without my lawyer present. By the way, you have no right to actually be here. Get out before I call the real police, who, by the way, are not going to like the fact that you're totally botching their investigation right now, you useless, terrible person. But they never say that. Instead, the killer just lets out this single wistful sigh. And he says, "The night my wife told me she was leaving me for Edmondo, my heart became filled with anger." Did we really need Angela Lansbury to crack open this piñata? This nut bar sandwich could go into Lowe's to buy garbage bags for the body, and when he finds out they're sold out, would immediately call the police to confess. Hi, what's your name? Chris. What do you do for a living? Are you involved in law enforcement at all? Okay, I admit it, I stabbed her! I strangled her and I stabbed her! Punish me! I don't know if it's healthy that I put this much thought into a show that came out 30 years ago. I mean, it's a harmless show about murder, but you know what I mean. Like, it's not offensive or anything. It didn't cause suffering to people who watched it. I'm just critical of it because I think it's important to think about things critically. And also because I have a warped sense of things that you can do that are fun. I just like to wonder about things that maybe most people don't really think about. Like, for instance, did you know that Earl, the title of nobility, Earl, was intrinsically linked to being timely? Hence the word early. If you were early, you were exhibiting a trait like that of an Earl. I just made that up. I mean, it could be true. Don't take my word for it. Look it up. We have internets now. Just be prepared to spend multiple hours on TV tropes and then end up reading about Soviet copyright law at 5 a.m. If that sounds strangely specific, why yes, this has happened to me. But seriously, look stuff up. I mean, how many stupid lies are out there that would fall apart immediately if people questioned new ideas that didn't contradict things that they already believe? And I don't just mean like politically charged ones. I read about this study that says 97% of all communication is nonverbal. 97%, or 93%. Only 7% is the words themselves. How credible is this study? What was their sample size of people with superhuman levels of perception who couldn't read? It's just one of those things you accept and don't think about too hard, which I didn't for a really long time, and then one day it just kind of occurred to me. I'm not sure if you have, but have you noticed that there are different languages? Well, let's try an experiment here. Put on a Puerto Rican soap opera without subtitles, and just pay really close attention to tone and body language. I'll just read the script in English, and then we'll compare notes and see who has a better idea of why Diego didn't want Adriana to have that baby. Come on, let's make a bet. You have a 93% advantage over me. When there's a trial, they have a court stenographer. They don't hire an interpretive dancer. They want someone to take down all the words that are being spoken. I mean, if this study was accurate, 93% of that page would be describing every nonverbal tick in excruciating detail. State your name for the record, please. The defense attorney looks down for an instant at her stack of pages with a look of rigid neutrality that suggests she's trying not to betray her uncertainty at how this line of questioning is about to go. The witness's left eyebrow raises 0.6 inches. The judge appears to be taking notes, but based on the angle of his notepad and the look of feigned concentration in his eyes, he is drawing what is probably a picture of Rainbow Dash. Just shows you, like, I believe this one for a really long time. It just shows how fast misinformation spreads. Like, here's another one. There's one a number of years ago that said that men think about sex on average every 7 seconds. How did the first person tell this to the first other person and not be told to shut up and that was it? How did this pass on to a third person, let alone every stupid body? I mean, like, I could kind of see it, like, women spreading this, like, oh, that sounds about right. But men do it too. I mean, if you're a man, you have personal experience in the matter. Think about it. When was the last time sex even entered your mind? Like an hour ago? A half hour? I mean, we're in a convention with sexy cosplay everywhere, so maybe a couple minutes. But 7 seconds? I've gone entire days without thinking about sex. Am I that much below average? That means statistically there's someone out there who thinks about sex so frequently it is actually impossible for him to function in society. Just being wheeled around in a wheelchair, just constantly objectifying everyone and everything he sees. That makes me think about sex. That makes me think about sex. That makes me think about sex. Never sleeping. Every second of every day, his computer-like brain generating thousands of scenarios like in some genius bid to create the world's greatest fantasy. Everywhere he goes, agents from like Pornhub, RedTube, XHamster, all the major porn sites are following him around with notepads and like pencils behind their ears, microphones shoved in his face, trying to catch every little word that he mutters. What was that? 2 anthropomorphic otters fisting a 3-breasted vampire. Brilliant! Clear me a spot on the front page. I need a costume designer and a practical effects expert. And get me Sasha Grey. Okay, get me Caden Cross. We have mere hours before Spankwire scoops us. By now, he's probably in a lab somewhere, just wired up to this machine with electrodes on his forehead and his junk and every conceivable erogenous zone, his ears. Just powering major cities with his raw sexual energy. Well, a series of explicit images flickers in front of his face so fast you have to be a hummingbird to catch each one. Scientists are monitoring him to see what gives him the most optimal peaks. Okay, we had good results with this set. Let's try 500 parts various lesbian, 150 parts doggy style, 40 parts big black booty, 15 parts a female clown with a shaved head pegging Kermit the Frog, 1 part furry vor, and 2 parts a naked famous Olympic gymnast wrestling an endangered crocodile. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Give it up for Tom. So as always, feel free to shuffle around if you'd like. You move closer, move farther away, move out the door. It's up to you. So tell me about your YouTube channel, about your weird games.
I find video games that are weird, and I make fun of them.
I really should have been able to figure that out on my own. So give me an example of a weird game that you've played recently.
Oh, man, where do I start? Recently? Yeah. I played a game called Deadly Premonition. And
Whoa. That game is great, how dare you?
It's about an FBI agent who has a friend who nobody ever sees, who he talks to by himself, named, what was it, Zach? And his fortune is told to him in coffee, and he fights zombies that crawl backwards and put their hands down his throat, and it's weird.
I mean, I guess Catherine's about evil sheep and climbing a thing and banging your a succubus. I think that's a little bit weird. It's pretty. Oh, you got to play it. It's awesome. Trying to think of some other good weird games for you to play. Earthbound. Earthbound's super weird. Yeah. Yeah, there's a plumber that saves princesses and fights turtles. That's weird. Oh, it's pretty obscure. And you also have a podcast.
Oh, I'm part of a podcast where we do tabletop RPGs, and things go hilariously off the rails, and it's very stupid. It's called Terrible Warriors. Because we are terrible.
All right. It's terrible and stupid. Good sell. Could be all on it. I got a few audience questions for you. What superhero power would be the worst to have?
Almost all of them, if you really think about it. I think the only superpower I'd want to have is telekinesis, because all of them have like horrible downfalls, like telepathy. Like, I don't really want to read everybody's mind. That's gonna wear on you. I don't want super strength. I'm gonna accidentally turn around and cripple someone. You know?
I just love the idea that's like, nah, my life's perfect. Don't do me anything. Any change will just upset my whole balance of life. What's the last show you binge watched? It's a good question.
I don't really binge watch things very much. I get bored after like 2 episodes of something. Like, I have to do something. I guess the last thing I finished was Turn, America's Spies, or Washington Spies. Yeah, not very historically accurate, but it's fun.
It is a TV show.
I mean, like, the main antagonist of the series is John Graves Simcoe, who's like this utter psychopath in the show who murders people because. And then, I'm like, wait, is this like I'm from Canada, and we have a holiday in Canada called Simcoe Day. I'm thinking, is this the same as Simcoe? I gotta look this up. John Graves Simcoe was a pretty decent dude who became the lieutenant governor of Upper Canada, which is now Ontario, and he freed all the slaves in Canada. So, yeah, he's a pretty bad guy.
Now, you said you also watched Turn and said it wasn't historically accurate, and I was like, I don't know. I'm sure it's fine. And then you said you're Canadian. I was like, I'm so positive you know my history more than I do. So I totally believe that now. All right, final question. This is a big one. Is peeing in the shower socially acceptable?
I'm not really a social guru. I've never done it. I know some people have. I'm not really sure I want to judge them for it. I've never been proxy to this happening.
Yeah, definitely not socially. There's never been a time where I was like, everybody together, come on. We're getting in the shower. It's going to be great.
Follow it up with group poop.
Give it up for Tom, everybody. Come on.